What's up, party people?
Hello, hello, hello.
It is us, your gorgeous ghouls, again.
We haven't died yet.
No, no.
That would be cool to be a vampire, though, or a zombie. Nah,
I don't want to be a
well,
zombie.
yeah, me either. I
They're
don't like.
they're
I don't want to eat brains. That sounds nasty. That's a little bit like my story I have for us to do, though. Eating
oh
brains.
oh.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Well, open my skull cap and sizzle away.
And sizzle, sizzle, sizzle. I don't know. I've lost it, guys. Okay, so let's get started before I keep going down this sizzle train.
as, as if you're not hot enough, you now drive a sizzle train.
Yeah.
My
It's not
life
that
is
kind of train, though.
my,
No, no, no multiple.
and I bought my ticket and everything. Damn.
Oh God, this is supposed to be a serious one. Sorry, guys, I'm already blowing it. We only made it just past a minute into the episode.
And we're already talking about running a train with Lav.
Oh man. Okay, back on track.
Back on track.
I can't. I can't. Okay. Mm. Focus, Lavender. All
Thank the
right.
good thank the goddesses for editing.
Right. In 1989, on March 14th, Mark Kilroy was taken by cult members to a ranch where he was murdered in a human sacrifice ritual. Mark was killed with a machete blow and then had his brains removed and boiled in a pot. His killers then inserted a wire through his backbone, chopped off his legs, and buried him at the ranch along with 14 other people who had been killed before him.
Oh shit.
If you could only see Stacy's face right now. She's like, this is a cult I haven't heard of.
I was like, wait, have I heard of them? What the fuck? Wow. All
Yep.
right. I'm
Mark
ready.
Mark was born March 5th, 1968 in Chicago. His parents, Jim, who was a chemical engineer, and Helen, who was a volunteer paramedic, and his brother, Keith, all moved to Texas at some point early in Mark's life. The Kilroy family was Catholics. Mark was a Boy Scout. He loved and played many sports like basketball and baseball. Mark even received a basketball scholarship to Tarleton University in Stephenville, Texas. But he changed his mind, like many people do, and decided to transfer to the University of Texas, where he became a pre med student.
Oh.
So, Mark came from a good family, had a good head on his shoulders. He was a very smart man. How did he end up being sacrificed by a cult?
Just I'm gonna grasp at straws. Did he travel outside of the United States?
He did. He did.
He's in Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I know this one.
Do you know this one? You figured it out?
Yes. Oh, yes. Thank you. Because this one never crossed my radar, but this is a hell of a story, you guys. So buckle up, party people, and get your forks because you're about to be served some brains.
Mm-hmm. The brain train.
You don't get to do that when I'm drinking. Oh God, it went in my nose. Okay.
On the 10th of March, 1989, Mark's childhood friend Bradley Moore and Mark headed to Santa Fe to pick up two other friends whose names were Bill Huddleston and Brent Martin before heading to South Padre Island. They went to South Padre Island for spring break. After arriving, the group of boys met up with a group of girls from Purdue University. They partied all night until the next morning. The next couple of days appeared to be pretty typical for spring break lifestyle: partying, eating, hanging out on the beach. On the 13th of March around 10:30 p.m., this group of boys, I don't know if the girls went with them or not, didn't really specify, but went to Matamoros, Mexico. And they walked across the border. They left their car and walked across.
Actually, that's not as strange as it seems because I've heard of people doing that through California as well. They'll park their car. There's like a secure parking lot, and then
Mhm.
they'll walk a pedestrian bridge over the border
It's probably
uh,
faster. I mean, you're
into
not having to wait
Tijuana.
to be you don't have to wait to be searched and all that kind of stuff.
Well, they say it's safer too because there's border patrol all along this pedestrian bridge.
Oh,
So
really?
yeah, I would never go. I'm just gonna be honest. I have nothing against Mexico, but it's just not a vacation for me.
So, it's like I said, it's around 10:30. They walk across, they go to this town in Mexico, and they party it up there. Around 2 a.m., Mark was outside one of the bars talking to a woman. His friends all said that he was leaned up against this truck talking to this woman. Well, Bradley and Brent decide that they are going to ditch Mark and Bill and go their own separate way. So they go to a different bar or whatever they were going to do. Mark and Bill were supposedly heading back into Texas together. Mark wanted to stop by this woman's house to say goodbye to her, and it's kind of unclear at this time if Bill is currently with Mark or not, because the next thing is Bill stating that he's seen Mark waiting for him, like hanging out on the sidewalk after visiting this mystery woman. But Bill, like on his way to meet Mark, had to pee, so he ducked into an alleyway, did his business, and then when he came out of the alley, Mark was gone. So Bill thought that Mark had just decided to go back to this woman's house for the night, which would make sense. And
Right.
he went ahead and returned to the hotel. The next morning, Mark had never returned, so his three friends reported him missing. Now, both the Mexican and United States officials got involved with this, and the only reason that the United States got involved so quickly was because Mark's uncle, Ken Kilroy, is pretty high up in the customs in Los Angeles.
Mm.
And so he pulled some strings and got the United States involved, right?
And just real quick on that, that bothers me in any type of situation that you have a person go missing or you have somebody murdered. It takes someone, you have to have someone in power in your family before they're going to jump on and investigate as thorough as they should. And
Right.
what if you don't have this? You know,
Well,
the
the if the United States hadn't got involved, then the police would have just the Mexican police were just trying to pawn it off, saying no, 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 they left Mexico. This happened in the United States. It would have been a he said, she said, and nothing would have ever been done. They would have
right.
never found any of this out, to be honest.
But that's the thing that I'm saying is if this was an ordinary everyday person that doesn't have ties to customs or government or a large financial bank account, they'd be fucked. Their family would never know where they were.
Right. Exactly. So at some point, they everybody's involved. They're looking for Mark. They decide to get a hypnotist involved, and they hypnotize the three boys. Bradley was reported saying under hypnosis that he saw at one of the bars a young Hispanic man wearing a blue plaid shirt with a visible scar on his face talking to Mark right before he disappeared. Everyone on the all of the boys stated under hypnosis that they remember this Mexican guy telling Mark, "Hey, you look familiar from somewhere. How do I know you?" But none of the friends, none of them could tell the precise moment, like where they were actually at, what bar they were at when this happened at.
That's a bad pickup line. Hey, I know you from somewhere. The fuck you do?
Right. So at this point, helicopters and, border patrol and all of that are out looking for Mark's body. Now, I don't know why they automatically assume that he's dead at this point, but they did. They were out looking for his body and
Because
didn't
I
find it.
think, because I think they already knew. They already knew there was something. It wasn't like a well, let's go see. Maybe he just got lost, or maybe he's somewhere his friends don't know. They knew. They knew corruption in Mexico, in their
Runs high.
judicial. Yeah.
America's Most Wanted aired the case on March 26th. 2 weeks. This is 16 days after the boys went on spring break. And 13 days after Mark officially went missing. So the America's Most Wanted aired this super quickly, which is surprising to me.
Yeah.
But no leads came from it. There was never no one reported anything worth value. The next break in the case came April 1st, when the Mexican police had set up some sort of drug checkpoint and a car avoided it. So they had other police and unmarked vehicles out there, and they followed this car. The car goes to this ranch, and they search the car once it gets to the ranch, and they find cult paraphernalia and marijuana. The driver's name was Serafin Hernandez Garcia, and he's a known nephew of one of the really big drug lords in the area. So the police are like, oh, what's going on here, buddy? They knew who he was and everything, but they didn't arrest him at the time.
That doesn't make
So
any sense to me. You already know this dude's got ties to one of the biggest cartels, and they find all of this, the incriminating stuff, and they just what
let him go.
shake his hand and walk off.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that they were waiting to see if they could gather more evidence because he was arrested on April 9th. So a week later, he was arrested. And while he was arrested, he confessed to killing multiple people, including Mark.
Okay.
So, according to Garcia, the murders had been ordered by Adolfo Constanzo. Constanzo, a cult leader who practiced ritual form of human sacrifice in the belief that it provided supernatural protection to the drug gang and their allies.
Yeah.
Adolfo believed that by sacrificing his victims, it ensured strength, abundance, and immunity from law enforcement. This cult specifically needed a white male to sacrifice.
He basically he gave them exactly what they needed.
Mm-hmm. Yep. The cult had supposedly mingled with spring breakers the night of March 14th. And as Mark stood in the street near his friends, one of the men lured him to the truck. I'm assuming using the presence of a pretty girl because they'd seen him talking to a woman while he was standing outside this truck.
Oh, had to have been.
Later that night, while Mark was waiting for his friend to pee in the alleyway, that same truck with that girl drove by. Mark then approached the vehicle. Garcia and another cult member whose name is Malio Fabio Ponce Torres snatched up Mark, got him into the truck, and according to testimony, at some point, Mark whooped their asses, got loose, and ran away. But he was intercepted by another vehicle driven by some of the cult buddies. These weren't people in the cult, but they were friends of these people.
Okay.
They took
Probably
him,
paid.
right,
Probably
probably.
paid. Yeah.
They took him prisoner at gunpoint. He was then restrained in the back of the second car. The cult then took Mark through the back streets of the city to Santa Elena Ranch. They, however, didn't kill Mark right away. They left him handcuffed in the back of the car overnight. Some,
Oh.
sometime in the morning, the ranch's caretaker fed Mark fucking breakfast.
So they've handcuffed you. They've left you overnight in probably like a Mexican desert in a car. You've, I'm sure, urinated, defecated, vomited because you've been drinking, and you're scared out of your mind. And then all of a sudden, somebody just shows up and it's like, here, huevos rancheros, mi hombre.
Yep. Yep.
And y'all wonder why I will not go to Mexico.
After about 12 hours, Adolfo and his men came to pay Mark a visit. They wrapped his entire head with duct tape. They walked him through a field to a storage cabin where his hands were still handcuffed behind his back. For over the next 24 hours or so, Mark was tortured and sodomized. After being raped and tortured, Mark was whacked in the back of the neck and head with a machete. And this is ultimately what killed him.
Oh, that poor kid.
His brain was then boiled in a. Now, I don't know if the N or G is pronounced, so it could be Nagaga or Ganga. It's an
Okay.
African pot, right? And it's like a specific African pot.
That would make sense, especially if they're doing rituals. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
you know that as well as I do. Your belief system will attach the powers of that ritual to certain tools, so that makes perfect sense.
And testimony says that Adolfo only used this specific pot to stew human and animal remains for the cult. This cult had also had some other weird burial practices. Mark's legs were chopped off above the knees, and then these weirdos inserted a wire straight down his spinal cord. When asked why they had done this, they told the officials that this was done because once the body had decomposed and all the flesh had come off, then the bones could be pulled up from the soil easily. So basically, they inserted the wires to keep his bones together, like the skeleton that you see in the science class. And then
Hmm.
they would leave the wires exposed out of the dirt. So after several months, they could just pull up a whole skeleton out of the dirt.
I was
They
I seriously was just about to ask what the hell the purpose of the wire was. So,
and then they used the bones to make jewelry.
and they probably sold partial, if not full, skeletons to medical schools.
On April 11th, 1989, this ranch was nicknamed El Padrino, or the Godfather. And I can't roll my R's, so I know I'm butchering all these Spanish words, so forgive me. But my tongue doesn't work that way.
Mine does.
So Adolfo and his cult members sacrificed enemy gang members, farmers, and even children. They supposedly slit their throats, cut off their genitals, chopped off their heads, and ripped out their hearts and lungs,
Good
which they
Lord.
then boiled in that specific African pot for their rituals. Then the members of the cult would take turns drinking the broth that was made from the organs of these murdered people. Now, Mark was the only one said to officially have been sacrificed. Everyone else was just killed because they were in the way or they were rival gang members or something along those lines. They weren't actually sacrificed.
Okay, so I understand that as this is what I take from it. It's they, due to whatever ritual they were doing, there was a specific type, kind of like you make a dish, you need a specific protein.
Mm-hmm. So this ranch is where Mark's body was officially found. When the excavation was concluded, I wrote the suspects, but it was not the suspects. It was the police. the police had unearthed 15 bodies, including Mark's. Mark's was the newest one. All the rest of them were several months prior to, based on decomposition. All of them were
Wow.
males. And the oldest body they suspect had been there for 9 months. So within a 9-month period, they had killed 15 people.
Damn.
They were able to match or to identify Mark based on his dental records. They matched his dental records.
I would think at that point you kind of have to, unfortunately.
Investigators concluded that the victims were rival drug dealers. However, 3 of the bodies were never identified. So they could have been sacrifices.
Mm-hmm.
Also at the ranch, the Mexican police seized 243 pounds or 110 kilograms of marijuana, 108 grams of cocaine, 12 firearms, including 3 submachine guns, 11 vehicles, and all of the vehicles were equipped with telephones. Now, this is the 80s.
Yeah. So you had to have a lot of fucking connections to have phones in your car.
Right, and they had 11 of them.
These dudes weren't fucking around.
Nope. They also found an iron pot with the remains of a human brain, a goat head, chicken feet, a turtle, several different herbs, a horseshoe, and coins, all mixed with animal blood. However, they found no signs of cannibalism, but there is the rumor that that was part of their rituals, was to drink the blood.
This sounds like Santeria.
We're going to get into that.
Oh,
Yep.
buckle up, guys.
2 weeks later, the Mexican police burnt the ranch to the ground. Now, when I read this, I was like, what the hell? It's been 2 weeks. I can't believe that they burnt it down. Imagine what evidence they lost. Imagine there could have been so many more people dead there that they
Yeah.
don't even know about.
Yeah. Tie up some missing persons cases, cold cases.
Right. At this point, Adolfo and his cult are on the run, of course, right?
Mm-hmm.
One of the cult members by the name of Sarah Aldrett vowed to kidnap children for every jailed cult member. She was spotted at schools throughout the Rio Grande Valley. However, there was no reports of kidnapped kids. So throughout the month of April, the police hunted down and arrested various members of this cult. One of these arrests that I found particularly interesting was on April 17th in Mexico City. The police raided one of Adolfo's properties. They discovered piles of homosexual pornography. I don't know what I was trying to say. Homosexual pornography and hidden ritual chamber with an altar. The police stated that no evidence was found at the scene to link Adolfo or the men to any murders committed at that property. They did say, however, that the altars had ritualistic belongings, but they did not find any blood, period, in
Well,
the
no.
house.
Well, no, because it's all been drank. So, I mean, fuck are you guys looking for?
No men were arrested at the scene at this house, but they did arrest a lady by the name of Maria. She was the sister of one of Adolfo's lovers and henchmen, and she was apparently staying there to take care of the house. They also found at this scene Sarah's purse and other belongings that were left behind. The Mexican police believed that Adolfo probably murdered her because she knew too much about the inner workings of his group. This was believed because she was not seen with the cult in their various trackings of them in Mexico City. She hadn't been seen since her sightings at the schools. The U.S. authorities, however, believed that Sarah purposely left her belongings behind to confuse investigators and make it appear like she was dead. On May 6, 1989, the police tracked down Adolfo. He saw the cops and started shooting at them. It wasn't that hard to see the cops because 200 cops surrounded his building. They were
Shit.
not incognito.
Talk about, okay. Hey, overkill. Hi.
Right? It is said that Adolfo started throwing money out the windows and he even started to burn his money.
The fuck?
Right,
Why?
exactly. I have
Why?
no idea. Adolfo, fearing arrest, ordered his follower to shoot him. This this person that he ordered to shoot him was his lover. This was his mate. This other man. This guy wouldn't shoot Adolfo until Adolfo basically beat him up and forced him to. So then he killed Adolfo.
Okay.
Police arrested 5 people at the scene. One of them is Sarah. The funny thing to me is that they feared that Adolfo faked his own death, so they took DNA, fingerprints, and the body with them.
Okay, that makes that actually, I know weirdly, but that makes sense because if they have to have 200 cops to come get this dude, he's probably capable of anything.
Well, it reminds me of that Hitler conspiracy where they think he faked his own death by his look-alike being killed and
That's
not
right.
him.
That's right.
In August of 1990, so over a year later, the people that were arrested were sentenced. So one of them was his name was De Leon. He was sentenced to 30 years in prison for killing Adolfo. Then 2 other ones, Fragos and Montez, were convicted of a separate murder charge and sentenced to 35 years in prison. The ranch caretaker was eventually arrested and he was accused of covering up the crimes, and he was released from prison after a $500 bond.
Wow.
Drug trafficking charges were brought against 2 other people but were dropped by the U.S. And on May 3rd, 1994, Sarah was sentenced to 62 years in prison. The
Damn.
other cult members that were actually arrested in the house with her was Elio, Seraphin, and Serena. And they all received 67 years apiece.
Which might as well just be life because in a Mexican prison, if you make it to 10, you're lucky.
Right. Let's talk about the cult for a while. I know that's what you've been waiting for.
Hell yeah. You know me.
So it's been falsely said that this cult was cannibals. The members of this cult were cannibals, but they weren't. They believed in, and I'm going to butcher this name. They believed in cadmium pimbi.
Okay.
It's a Santeria devil.
Mm-hmm.
This cult was eventually called the Narco Satanist cult.
That's how I know
Their
it. That's how I know it by.
their purpose was to protect to do rituals and sacrifices to protect their drug gangs and ally gangs. The leader was Adolfo, and Sarah was his second in command, and she was known as the godmother. Together, they were responsible for known 15 murders, but it's highly suspected that they were known for double that. Their victims were tortured and then ritualistically slain. There's the one known human sacrifice. And they believed that this specific sacrifice of a white man, uh, um, and they had very specific things that they were looking for, like specific height, eye
Mm-hmm.
color, structure, all that kind of stuff. They believed that this sacrifice would bestow supernatural powers upon them, and that things like they would get psychic abilities. They would be able to become invisible. They could deflect bullets.
That's what I was going to say, is that was what stood out to me the most when I was reading about this cult forever and a day ago, is they truly believed if they followed this, if you will, recipe with these certain individuals, they truly would be completely invisible from their enemies, from law enforcement.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And the bad thing is, because they were so good at hiding their crimes, they would literally walk through the center of town and nobody would blink an eye at them. And they thought it was because they were invisible. And actually, it was because these people were terrified. They didn't
Right.
want to be on the business end.
Adolfo was born in Miami. He wasn't even Mexican. He was born in Miami, Florida, in 1962. His mother was a Cuban immigrant, and both her and Adolfo's grandmother, both her and his grandmother, were practiced Santeria, and they were both priestesses in the religion. So Santeria is a Haitian form of voodoo. It's a religion that blends elements of Christianity and poly. How do you pronounce that word? Polytheistic. Polytheistic, is that right? Religions, meaning
Uh,
like multiple gods.
yeah, yeah. Uh,
Um, and it was brought
poly,
over from
well,
polytheistic, I think is how you
poly,
pronounce.
polytheistic.
Yeah, okay. And it was brought over from West Africa to the Caribbean during the slave trade. So they seek favor in this religion, they seek favor from different deities by making them offerings. And this includes food most commonly. And they
Hmm.
ritualistically slaughter chickens and goats and other common things and make recipes to honor the gods with. When Adolfo was a baby, it is said that one of these priests gave him a bowl full of water for him to bathe in, drinks, do something with. They like baptized him with this bowl of water, but this water was the water from boiling human bones.
Hmm.
And he was told throughout his entire life that because he was honored with this, that he was essentially given magic. And this was the start to his belief that he could obtain these things. I mean, this was the first step in his magical fairy tale, and it would end with dismemberment across Mexico.
Well, and from what I know about Santeria, it is absolutely nothing I would ever mess with. And if someone tells you that they practice Santeria, but they don't practice it in a bad way, don't believe them. Santeria is not ever used in light or white type of magic. And for him to be indoctrinated into it as an infant, it's not surprising he grew to be who he was.
Right. No, I agree with that. When he was older is when he decided that this Kadim Pimpin, whatever this devil is, that he was the mortal version of this devil. And it's funny, he started his career before he became this cult leader and this drug lord. He was a fortune teller and a magician for drug lords, like in his teens. And that's
Mhm.
how he even got involved in the cartel and these drug gangs.
It's funny, and I shouldn't say funny, but in an irony type of way. And I know you've heard this before too, where people talk about creating the perfect race. I mean, Hitler wanted to create the perfect blonde-haired, blue-eyed race because Hitler had interests in the occult.
Mhm.
And that's basically what they do in Santeria. And that's basically probably not only his direct, parents or family, but probably it's centuries before, ancestors before. This has probably been a practice of years.
Right.
So yeah, yeah, I could see where you would believe you were magical because you see, grandma and grandpa, great grandma and grandpa, aunties, uncles, doing what you want to do and doing
Right.
it successfully.
Adolfo was the Hispanic version of the elite. He was fair skinned. He was handsome. He worked as a model for a time. Um, he, like I said, he had begun his career with the drug cartels by offering them magic. He did spiritual cleansing. He did magic spells. He would do protection spells on drug runners and all of this kind of stuff. And everyone believed that he was really doing magic because it was working. They weren't being hurt. They were getting more money. He was, even performing these spells on celebrities and politicians.
Yeah. It's frightening how convincing, um and I know you'll agree with me on this, because of sociopaths,
Mm-hmm.
psychopaths, how convincing, how manipulating, how charming they are.
Right.
And if he had had like a normal upbringing, or had had a more or less violent, um, type of upbringing, he probably could have done amazing things.
Right. Right. I mean,
But
because I think maybe he must have had some sort of telepathic gift or something. He had something to make all of these spells and rituals believable. Like
of
he had
course,
some sort of intuition or something, I think.
of
Now
course.
his second in command, Sarah, she was born in 1964. She grew up in middle class, so she wasn't rich, but she wasn't poor either, in Mexico. She attended high school and then later went to college in Texas. She was always fascinated by the occult. And she had gone to school with Seraphim, which is one of the people that were arrested in this cult.
Hmm.
And they went to college together. And Seraphim is related to Elio. So Seraphim introduces her to Elio. The two of them start dating. And that's kind of how she gets brought into this cult. Adolfo immediately loved her because she was this tall, beautiful woman. She had this charm and charisma about her, and she had this college education. So he was using her as the forefront. Look, we have this beautiful woman. We can't be dangerous. She's intelligent. She's sweet. She's charming. Don't fear us.
And if I'm not mistaken, I think she had even been on television a few times, like in the novellas.
Oh, really?
I
I didn't
think.
read about that anywhere.
I could be wrong. I mean, but it seems like, because she was somebody that was very unassuming to them,
Mhm.
and they used her. It was easy for them to use her as a front woman because she was so refined,
Right.
and they were, but they weren't. They were rougher
Mhm.
around the
Right.
edges.
So Adolfo and his followers eventually set up the operation at the Santa Elena, which is the ranch. And this property is owned by the Hernandezes, which there's a bunch of them in this cult. According to Adolfo, the greater the sacrifice, the greater the power it bestowed. So they needed a big place to harness this power. They needed a lot of land to hide this power so people couldn't feel it. And they decided to set up their operations on this ranch. This soon after is when he started demanding that they find this person, this man, for their human sacrifice. So the cult's first victims, of course, were the rival gang trade, the drug trade members.
Mhm.
They were corrupt cops. They were brought back to the ranch. They were tortured. They were ritualistically killed. Their body parts were then put in that special pot, boiled, and they would make soups and brews, like liquid drinks out of them, and they would all drink them believing that they could be invisible and bulletproof.
Mhm.
They would then make necklaces out of their vertebrae and wear them, but it wasn't working. They weren't as invisible as they had hoped. Like, they were still getting noticed for things like small drug crimes and things like that. So this is when they decide that they need a executioner priest. So Adolfo made Elio, Sarah's boyfriend, the executioner priest. And they branded him across his completely across his chest and his arms with these burns of symbols that supposedly mean something, but I couldn't make it out. It just looked like a big scar to me.
And which probably, truthfully, that's all it was. But because they're burns and he's been branded and they sort of look like something, I bet you he was terrifying.
Mm-hmm. Well, he, as his first job, I guess, his first order was to prove himself as the executioner and prove to the cult that he could do it. He then used the machete to cut off his own nephew's head.
Please don't tell me this was a child. It was an
I don't
adult.
know. I don't know how old. I'm assuming it was somebody in the cult because it happened at the ranch, but it could have been a child. I don't know if it was or not.
Well, and I mean, I guess I shouldn't really feel or seem shocked because I mean, these are fucked up people. They don't, things like brother, sister, nephew, lover titles don't mean shit to them. If it's your time, if you're going to bring them power and you're going to, get in their way, they're going to take you out.
Right. So now we're in early March 1989. They're still not as invisible as they would like. They're still not as invincible as they would like to be. So, of course, good old cult leader here orders his followers to bring him the perfect Anglo male. So they set out
And there he was.
to find him. And that is the start of Mark's story. So, 3 questions for you.
Okay.
Was this a gay sex cult?
No, it was power. It had nothing, had absolutely nothing to do with homosexuality, with love, with the acceptance. No, no, it was all power. Because if you think about men in prison, they engage in homosexual sex constantly. They pimp the weaker ones out. But when they leave prison, if they leave prison, they don't have relationships with men. So what is it? It is an expression of power by taking away the one thing that people try to protect the most, which is vulnerability.
Okay. Why would he burn the money?
Um, it could be symbolism. He could be saying to whatever deity that he sacrificed to earn this money that he doesn't need it. Maybe he's trying to reverse that spell. Truthfully, it could have just been insanity, or he maybe wanted to show the cops that he was fucking nuts and not let them profit from his hard work, his determination.
Okay. And the last one, which you've already kind of answered. Are you having Hitler deja vu?
Definitely, very much so. In a lot of very dark Santeria, to me, I don't fear a lot of um, say different types of alternative religions or beliefs and things, because I have my own, and I feel the way I do things is it's not only is it sacred to me, but it protects me from those things. But that is one that every spiritualist I've ever had a conversation with has warned me against. And I even had a partner who had both an English Bible and a Bible that was in Haitian,
Okay.
because her mother had been cursed by a high priestess that practiced Santeria,
Okay.
and she was in her 30s, and her whole life there were certain rituals, there were certain superstitions and things they didn't do because of this supposed curse. So I could see where somebody wanting absolute power over a generation, or not generation, excuse me, a nation, a world, to be the highest power. I could see them going to any length,
Right.
supernatural, natural, satanic, you know, any witchcraft, anything to get it. But it just, yeah.
There was this girl that I was stationed with, and she actually trained me for patrol. And I remember her part of our we'd have to do a board for our patrolmen, right? And you sit up there and you answer questions. Part of it was knowing the streets through the housing area, because it was a big loop. And so you'd have to know the streets in order around the loop.
Okay, makes
And
sense.
it was something like 15 streets, but they weren't all on the loop. So I can't remember any of it now, but you had one street that there might be two streets off of that. And so you'd have to be like, you know, I can't even think of any streets, but this street has two streets. They are, and keep going, and you had to know them in order as you like would drive by them.
Mm.
And I just could not remember it. And it was raining one day, and she was like, "You know what? Fuck you, bitch." Like, I just because I wasn't really trying either. I was just like, whatever. Like, if I get one question wrong, they're still gonna pass me. And she's like,
Right.
you know what? Like, fuck you, bitch. Get out. You can walk them until you figure it out.
Oh
And it's
shit.
pouring down rain, and I'm like, are you serious? And she made me get out. She came back like 3 hours later. I was soaked. And I tell you what, I still did not know the streets, but I
Well,
just sat there under her shade.
you're under distress. I mean,
I
yeah,
didn't
some
even
people are
I
like,
didn't
"Oh,
even
it's
leave.
rain," but it's fucking cold. You're wet. You're not gonna remember shit.
But and so years later, she reached out to me on Instagram. I mean, this has been years ago that I talked to her, but probably 10 years after I'd even seen her.
Hmm.
And she was, I can't remember what started the conversation, but she was like, oh, I had made a post. I remember what started. I had made a post about a voodoo doll. And she's like, that's not accurate. And I was like, how would you know? And went on and told, like, she's like, I practice that.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh, so me and her did like a couple of little, because I was curious about it. So we did like a couple little like training sessions, like phone calls, and we did like a FaceTime once,
Mm-hmm.
and she just kind of told me about it, and I saw some of the things and stuff like that, and decided that it was not something that I was interested in pursuing anymore.
Yeah, I don't blame
But
you.
um it was kind of nice to have that person that actually deals with it to be able to
Have that
like show me
insight.
things and then answer my questions that I
Mm-hmm.
had, like, do we have to do this, like, in Wicca, like, you can substitute anything for anything if you want, like, if the intention's there, like.
Right.
And she's like, oh no, absolutely not, this is, you have to do it this way.
And and
It's not gray, it's very black and white, like, it's by the book.
and truthfully, um, you know, the green uh witchcraft, the kitchen um craft that I practice is very specific because each herb, each protein, each root has a specific power, has a specific place. And if you fuck that up, you're going to screw up whatever your intentions could be, nothing but the best, and you screw up and you end up creating a dark, like a dark hole, like a black hole,
Right, right,
um, for shit to come to you.
right, I
Um,
believe that.
and that's the thing about Santeria. That's another reason why I I don't even research it. I don't want to have. I'll talk about it for a second and then I want it put away because it is a very powerful magic. And even if it's not real magic, it's powerful by suggestion. Because I mean, everybody has heard of a self-fulfilled prophecy, right? I mean,
Yeah,
you know,
right,
you can look at your car and be like, my tire's a little low. Watch, I bet you anything, I'll get a flat tire. And then what? 3 days later, you got a flat tire.
right,
And I mean, and so that's kind of what I feel Santeria does is they create the idea in your head, and then once they create it, you maybe willingly or unwillingly will create that same situation. You'll give them what they're wanting, or you'll get what you want because you create it.
right,
But dangerous people do dangerous things. And whether it's mystical or it's not, anybody that's searching the darkness, whether it's magical, whether it's criminal, it is not someone you want to have any, you don't want closeness with them because they will, like the executioner, he'll cut your fucking head off. You can be his best friend for 30 years, he'll cut your fucking head off
right, just to prove a point.
to prove a point or to bring about something that he wants or she
Hmm.
wants.
Right,
And it's not surprising that the cult is salt and peppered with men and women because in different type of ritualistic practices, women hold certain significance. And in Santeria, since we women are a vessel of life, we are also a vessel of, we can be a vessel for darkness as well. So, we can bring forth life, but we can also bring forth death.
right, which is, I mean, that's such an interesting concept to even think about, like, that. I mean, women are the bringers of life. We're the only ones that can make life.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny how you would think that it would be more across the board of in these sort of religions and things that women are. And I think in Santeria, like, and like hoodoo and voodoo and stuff, like, women are usually the ones that do the killing in
Yes.
these rituals.
Yes.
The priestesses do. But in these, like, in these cults, it's never that way. It's always a man that does the killing for the most part.
Hmm.
But, like, in the religion, it is, I think it is predominantly the priestesses that do the bloodletting and stuff.
Yes. And it's my understanding that it is because what is the greatest achievement of any type, any person is bringing forth or sustaining life. So if you can grow another human inside of you, but you're also brave enough or invested enough that once you bring that life forward, you will sacrifice it for your needs, your greater, basically for your own benefit. If you're willing to sacrifice something that you fed, nurtured, and gave birth to, then you have a power that men within these same belief systems will absolutely bow down to because they can't do it. Not that they
Right.
can't sacrifice, you know, something just as honorable, but it's not as it's not as powerful because it's not purity. Women are supposed to be nurturers, we're supposed to be pure, we're supposed to be bringers of light. And so when you have this evil and these women are willingly and willfully evil, it's powerful, it's frightening.
It is. It is. I think that's, like, women serial killers are scary.
Mhm. Because we're not supposed to be that way. Violence is not supposed to be part of our MO. But I mean, that's where we have to start really getting rid of stereotypes and the whole fitting everybody into a box, um, is because at the end of the day, we're all flesh and blood and bones. But we are also organic thought machines. So we basically have the capability as human beings to create, to destroy. And when we don't look at every piece of the puzzle, we don't consider every piece of the puzzle, this is where a lot of things are just going to get slipped under the rug. This is where a lot of murders are going to happen, missing persons. This is where a lot of shit is going to go down because it's going to be that person that you don't expect. It's going to be that beautiful woman,
Right.
or it's going to be that very successful man.
Mhm.
It's not going to be the creepy, you know, scraggly dude that's on the corner.
Like Richard Ramirez.
Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah.
He, we'll have to talk about him another time, but to kind of put him with this cult.
Well, cuz he believed in he believed in Satan and stuff.
Mhm. And he believed that he was basically a psychic um, sponge, and that the people that he murdered, his soul would take them and take their qualities and would empower him to do more. So it's kind of like, basically, I know this is a bad analogy, but it's the only thing I can think of, is when you have bread. Bread as a starter by itself does nothing. It can
Right.
grow a tiny bit, but does nothing. It needs other ingredients to feed the yeast so it gets bigger and it can do what it wants or what you want it to do. So he felt that basically every soul that he took fed his soul and made him bigger, more evil, and more visible to Lucifer.
Yep. He's a interesting. His mind is interesting. Definitely have to do an episode on him.
Hmm. Yeah, that talk about nature and nurture. He was born bad.
I think so.
He was
I
born
think so
bad.
too. Because if I remember right, his family, they were poor, but they were not like
Mm-mm.
abusive or anything.
No, no. But his he had no male role models. So his male role model was a homicidal maniac that used war to satisfy his bloodlust.
Well, on that note, we're going to leave that as a cliffhanger.
To
So
a
when we do Richard Ramirez or the Night Stalker, you guys will be interested.
oh yeah, because we've already got you on the hook now. We're deep sea fishing. We got you on the hook, and you're gonna have to wait for the beast. Catch us on the flip side.
Bye, bitches.
Or witches.
Oh, witches. I like it.
Bye
Sex cult
witches.
goddesses.
I feel like that should be a hobby. I would like that as a hobby.
On
Oh,
that note,
on that note, I'm gonna drop it right here. What is up, party people?
hello, hello, hello.
So I have a surprise, not only for my gorgeous ghoul goddess, Putang, over here,
Hmm.
um, but for you guys as well. So everybody knows what a Sadie Hawkins dance is. It's a, or as they used to call it, when they would have specific dance shows, they would have ladies' choice. So today, our episode is going to be Lavender's choice.
Oh,
So, Lav, I have three cases for you to choose from.
Okay.
And I'm just going to give you a idea, and then you go from there.
Okay.
And for all of our friends out are listening, no matter what she picks, it's going to be phenomenal. But I've had this in the works for about 3 weeks. I've been wanting to do this, and I finally got um, the third show notes done. So, my lovely host, would you like justice? Would you like possible Stockholm syndrome? Or would you like paranormal?
Hmm. Does any of them have revenge?
Yes, our justice episode is full of revenge.
Hmm. I don't know. I'm so curious to see what you have for paranormal. Let's do paranormal.
You got it.
'Cause I'm usually the one that brings the paranormal. This is going to
You
be
are.
weird.
You are. But it's not going to be that weird because, party people, our episode today is on the Black Zodiac.
Ooh, yay.
And so, for everybody, if you are or not, either, it doesn't matter, um, we're going to talk about the movie The 13
You're
Ghosts.
muted.
What happened? I don't look muted. Are the spirits fucking with us again? Hmm.
Oh, now I can hear you.
Now we're good?
I can't see you, but I can hear you.
Well, here, let's try this. You don't need to see my ugly mug anyway.
You're the disappearing woman. Aw, look, it came true. Now you're back.
Now I'm back. Sorry for the disappointment, guys. I'm back. Um, in my
Stacy's
head,
name today is the disappearing woman.
yes.
So,
And I am the disappearing woman today because I know in previous episodes we talked about the fact that I was having weight loss surgery, and unfortunately things didn't go my way in February, so it was postponed to Wednesday, or excuse me, I lied. Monday, May 20th. So this coming Monday for you guys, because we're recording this today on the 15th, I will be having surgery. But my doctor put me on an extremely rigid diet because I had to prove to him that I was ready. And so in a week and a half, I have lost 16 pounds.
yep,
Uh,
it's an amazing job.
it's and I appreciate like all of you guys that are a part of my healthy life journey, your support, your encouragement. Um, thank you. Keep it coming. I know I don't always answer immediately, but believe me, I need it on some days. So the movie 13 Ghosts is about a man named Cyrus uh, Kutikos. And he collects spirits for the black zodiac, for a machine. And the movie tells you what the machine is. It tells you what it does. It tells you a general kind of generic description of the ghosts. But Lav and I both are big fans of this movie. And so I dug deep into the almighty Google and I have for you the backstories of our 13 ghosts. And party people, while we're talking about this, keep in mind your astrology sign and how you kind of line up with our ghouls for today. So strap on your oculus or your telescope and let's dive in. So, the black zodiac is the dark version of the normal zodiac. It's divided into 12 arcane signs, each represent an earthbound spirit needed to open up the oculus inferum, which is Latin for the eye of hell. The machine that is used to open the eye of hell is called Basilius's machine. This is a machine that resembles a modern mansion. So it looks like a house. But it was designed by the devil and powered by the dead. The glass that takes the place of solid walls is called ectobar glass. Ectobar glass is an extremely strong, almost indestructible glass. You notice we said almost. It is soundproof and shatterproof. Only a large explosion can destroy ectobar glass. So, Lav, are you asking yourself why you would need this type of glass in your house? You may not be because you know the movie.
Right. I mean,
Um,
we're trying to keep in the fire of hell.
yes, we are. We're trying to keep in some of the most deadly, dark, earthbound spirits.
What exactly makes them earthbound? Are we going to get into that?
Oh, we are. I for my wonderful host, my friend, my spooky sister, and for all you guys, my party people, I dove deep. So not only are you going to be able to go find this movie, you're going to see these characters and you're going to know exactly why they look the way they do, they act the way they do, and how they got that way.
This is one of my favorite movies, too.
Yes, it's both of ours. It's one of our very favorites, and it's interesting. It's not just about gore, it's interesting. So, each ectobar pane is inscribed with barrier spells. Barrier spells prevent the imprisoned spirits from escaping. And it's not clear if ectobar glass is of a natural or supernatural material. But know this: the machine is the namesake of a 15th century astrologer named Basilius, who designed the machine under demonic possession. The black zodiac is basically the Duracell battery that provides evil energy to power the eye. Now, party people, why would we need an eye into hell? Because the person that can open the eye can gain all the magic, all the power of hell. So, what is the arcane? The arcane, the arcanium, is an ancient instruction manual because every machine needs instructions. So, this instruction manual contains the spells for capturing and containing the earthbound spirits. Since the type of spirits needed are particular to certain signs, each of the 13 ghosts have a profile and they must fit this profile. So, our first is the firstborn son. His name is Billy Michaels, and he is an Aries. Now, the negative traits of the Aries sign is stubbornness, immaturity, and recklessness.
I feel attacked right now.
Not you. Never. But Billy, when you see his spirit, he is an adolescent boy. He is in a Western style shirt, button up shirt, and he has an arrow straight through his head. Now, Billy loved Westerns and he loved playing cowboys and Indians. And after being teased by his neighbor boy, Billy armed himself with his trusty pop guns and challenged the boy to a duel. Unfortunately, Billy took a toy gun to a real arrow fight. And the neighbor shot him through the head with a metal arrowhead. His ability to harm anyone as a spirit is very minimal. But he's a little jarring when you see him. This kid's got a big ass arrow sticking out of his head.
I wish my character would be better. Which character do you think I am?
Oh, it's funny. As I was writing this, I thought about who you would be. So as we go through, I'll point out which one I think that you are. Because my symbol, I'm a Libra.
Uh-huh.
And the ghost that's attached to my symbol is spot on. Yours is not, but I'll tell you which one I thought you were. So our second ghost is, let's don't call them ghosts. Let's call them earthbound spirits. So our second earthbound spirit is the torso. The torso's name is Jimmy Gambino. He is a Taurus. So the negative traits of all you Tauruses out there, or Tauruses, however you like to pronounce it, is greed, stubbornness, and materialistic tendencies. So Jimmy Gambino grew up in casinos and at the horse track, developing a dangerous gambling addiction. Jimmy's bookie business struggled and caused him to earn a bad reputation, especially with the mob because of his debts. So, kind of like a drug dealer that uses his own product. Jimmy liked to gamble as much as he liked to place his own bets as much as he liked to take other people's bets. And after making a very large bet with a mob boss, the Jimmy couldn't cover it, and they knew he couldn't cover it. So the mob watched on the sidelines as Jimmy's fighter that he bet on went down with a KO. After the gang cut his limbs and head off, they wrapped him in plastic wrap, tossing him into the ocean. So when you see the torso, he is just that. He is a torso. He has no arms, he has no legs, he has no head, and he's wrapped in plastic. His ability to harm outside of the ectobar cages is very minimal as well, considering he's just, kind of hopping along. But he's still kind of It still jars you a little bit when you see him. I'll be honest, he is never and not one of my favorite characters. I think he's just boring. Um,
Right. Me too.
so our third earthbound spirit is the bound woman. Um, and she is Susan LeGros, and she's a Gemini. Now, her negative traits are being manipulative, deceitful, and likes to play mind games. Doesn't most women?
Mm-hmm.
And I'll tell you honestly, it kind of sometimes sucks being a woman that dates women, because you kind of play your own little mind game, and it becomes a contest of who's got better game, you or the chick
I
that
don't know. I
you're
don't know if
trying to
women are
get.
necessarily deceitful, but women definitely play mind games.
Oh, I don't feel most women start out to be deceitful. I think what happens is they play the one up game, and in their journey to one up the person that they're engaging with, uh, deceit may start, you know, being a weapon.
Right.
So Susan LeGros was the daughter of the richest family in her town. She was privileged, popular, and beautiful. Her boyfriend was the captain of the football team, and she was homecoming queen. Her carefree life would come to an end when her boyfriend catches her on prom night, of all nights, with another dude. Flies into a rage, and he strangles her with his tie
Okay.
and kills the other guy and buries her under the football field. On the night of his execution, his last words were, "She deserved it."
Hmm.
So, this is why she's the bound woman, because when you see her, she is in a prom dress. I believe she has her crown on, and her arms are tied behind her back, and her boyfriend's tie is still around her neck. She's not so much a vengeful earthbound spirit. Um, she's more remorseful because, she got caught in her game.
Right.
Now, the fourth earthbound spirit of our zodiac is the one that I feel that Lav, I feel like you embody this one.
Okay. I'm waiting. Do I have to guess?